Hello, everybody. Welcome back to some of you. Welcome to the Entrepreneurial Skills session for today. I'm going to give it another minute before we properly dive in, but I just want to welcome everybody. I see a column in the chat there. Welcome back. I know you were here yesterday. Yeah, as you guys will see at the top, we're going through today the power of branding. So this is going to be a great session with Chuck Pettis. He is kind of a well-known branding expert in the States. I'll read his little bio as we kick off in just a minute or two. But yeah, again, for today, it's the same as yesterday, same as these sessions. The way that they typically work is I am going to go through a number of these videos that we have here on the Techstars Entrepreneurs Toolkit. It's a great resource, and we're going to go through kind of the tutorial videos, and then at the end, there's a bit of exercises that we're going to be able to walk through. And the idea being that after this, you'll be armed with the opportunity to actually complete these sessions. So I'm here and everybody else in the chat is here as a sounding board. So if you have questions as we go, we're here to support each other and help out. I'll try to answer things as we go. Now, you'll just keep in mind that there is about a 1-minute delay on the chat. So when you post something in the chat, it'll take me about a minute to recognize it. So if I don't respond right away, don't worry. But yeah, the idea is I have gone through a number of these sessions before. I've gone through this one in particular. In fact, I was lucky enough to be in New York in 2017, I believe it was. It was the year before last, in October, for this session with Chuck Pettis, where he walks us through the power of branding. I think it's a really powerful tool. It's a unique way of coming at how you're going to develop your idea, how you're going to position your business. And after yesterday's session on positioning, it's going to fit pretty well. So I think I see two of you guys in the chat. I see Joseph and Column. So with that, I'm going to say hello to you guys, and we'll probably dive into it. You guys both know the way it works. If you have questions, type them in the chat. If you have anything else, I see Joseph is happy he won his pizza yesterday. So yeah, again, at the end of today, no matter how many people are here, people will type in the chat, say they are interested in winning a free pizza, and we will give away one free pizza at the end of the session. But again, hopefully everybody's here for a bit more than just the pizza. Either way, we're going to dive right in. Today we're going into the power of branding. So we're going to learn how to use the most powerful branding tools and techniques to elevate your brand equity and connect to your target audience. Featuring thought leader Chuck Pettis, president of Brand Solutions and former VP of Marketing at MakerBot, where we helped them realize a $400 million exit. He shares his secrets to building a solid brand strategy to help startups attract customers and investors and grow their company. So yeah, as I said before, Chuck Pettis is a well-experienced entrepreneur. MakerBot was actually founded by his son. So interestingly, that's why he was then brought on as the VP of Marketing, and they did exit pretty handily, I would say. So without further ado, I'm going to make sure that the audio is working okay. Today I started us off with a bit of lo-fi hip-hop beats in the background. It's a live stream on YouTube, so sharing that so you guys aren't sitting in silence when we begin. But if you couldn't hear that or you can't hear this video once I start it, just let me know, and we'll go through the session now. So without further ado, the power of branding trailer.
My name's Chuck Pettis. I love branding. I have a company called Brand Solutions, Inc., located in Freeland, Washington. I've been very privileged to have a family of entrepreneurs. My son, Bree Pettis, was co-founder of a company called MakerBot, the leader in desktop 3D printing. And I was very fortunate to be able to work for him for 3 years, where I was the VP of Marketing to introduce the MakerBot Replicator 2 desktop 3D printer. Startups and entrepreneurs have a hard time articulating the product, the target audience, and what's the benefit of their product. Entrepreneurs and founders should start with branding from the very beginning. It will help them articulate what they're doing and why it's important and help them be way more successful. Branding's all about selling. It's the most efficient selling process. So to get customers, you have to sell, understand the customer's pain point, and their problem, and then you need to articulate a solution that's going to relieve that pain and help them be really successful. A positioning statement is the company's most repeated message. It should be short, clear, understandable. It should explain what the company does and the benefit to its customers and target audiences. Most companies don't come up with a positioning statement. They ramble on and on and on. So a positioning statement should be the first thing you say in any conversation, any marketing communication, the website, brochures, presentations. You know, when you start a company, you want to find the 20% of the target audience that's going to bring you 80% of the revenue. And the positioning statement is targeted to help you do that. And it typically takes 28 times of repetition for someone to actually remember something. So in branding, we're trying to make it simple, keep it clear, keep it focused. In my experience, the biggest mistake that most companies make when it comes to branding is they go to a design firm or an ad agency and ask them to brand them or rebrand them. The problem is that very few agencies and design firms actually understand the true tools and techniques of branding. I really think that companies, as they're getting started, should develop their brand identity map, their brand name, their target audience, their category descriptor, the top purchase factors and features and benefits, the emotional appeal of their product and their brand, and that's what really makes a difference. Your positioning statement, your top 2 features and its and associated benefits, the emotional appeal of your product or brand, and what are the visuals that capture that emotional appeal, so when the target audience sees those visuals, it makes them want the brand.
Awesome. So that's a bit of the intro. Those are the things we're going to go through. I saw your message in the chat there, Joseph. So yeah, a positioning statement would be essentially a one-liner, but it's interesting. I was looking through it just before. Chuck is actually going to walk us through exactly how to create a positioning statement, and then afterwards in the exercises, they have a specific breakdown on what goes into your positioning statement. So by the end of this, if you still have the same question, we can answer it again, but you should have that pretty clearly laid out by the end of this. So with that, the things we're going to go through, there are 7 videos for today, so it might take us close to, if not right to the hour. Build an emotional connection, remembering your brand, develop your brand, find your hook, leverage your key features, tap into your customers' emotions, and then finally craft your positioning statement. So at the end, we will actually craft your positioning statement, and that's kind of going to be the takeaway from today. So we'll just jump right into it. If there are no other start-off questions, and do type in, I'll answer as we go, or anybody in the chat, feel free to help everybody out. The first thing we're going to go into is building an emotional connection. A bit of what we touched on yesterday in the positioning, so I think it'll build nicely off of that. But building an emotional connection, branding is one of the most powerful tools you can use for your company. This video will help you understand how branding can improve the perceived value and brand equity of your company or product and build an emotional connection to your customers. Cool. Let's see how we connect with our customers.
Okay, my name is Chuck Pettis. I love branding. I'm really going to have a good time telling you in 40 minutes everything you need to know almost about branding. I've been doing branding my whole career. And I've been an entrepreneurial family my whole career, and so I'm really connect with you. I've had the opportunity to work with some of the world's greatest brands in all different kinds: manufacturing, service, real estate, consumer, financial, lots of high tech, manufacturing, restaurants, boy, just about everything. Let me just skip through those. So branding is the most powerful tool in the commercial world. Very few people understand how brand works. I'm here to tell you how it really works, because branding alters people's perceptions of reality. What I want to do is give you an overview of these most powerful branding tools that are used by the world's most powerful brands, so that you can use these tools to help your company be super successful. What is brand? Brand is a trademark. It's a trust mark. It's a trust relationship. Brand is about perception. It actually has not that much to do with reality. Stanford did a study with kids, and they found out that anything that has McDonald's on it tastes better to kids. Whoa. There's the great test between Coke and Pepsi. If you do blind taste testing, where people are tasting Coke and Pepsi, but they don't know what they're tasting, 51% will prefer Pepsi over Coke. But if you do name testing, here's Coke, here's Pepsi, all of a sudden almost 3 to 1, people will prefer Coca-Cola over Pepsi. Huge. They did the same study where the subjects were in an fMRI scanning machine where most of the branding research is being done this day, i.e. what's going on in the brain when people are perceiving your brand. When the subjects didn't know what brand they were tasting, nothing happened in the brain. When they were cued with Pepsi, nothing happened in the brain. When they were cued with Coca-Cola, the brain lit up. In branding, we want the brain to light up emotionally. We want people to want your brand. Here is the brain on Coca-Cola. Here is the brain on Pepsi. I once did a workshop with one of the world's leading radiologists. He said, that's the pleasure center. It doesn't get much better than that. What has Coke done and what's Pepsi done? Coke has been on message. They repeated their key messages, delicious, refreshing, unique, for decades. They've kept the same logo. Pepsi keeps changing the logo. Pepsi keeps changing their messages. They actually just recently did a commercial where they used delicious and refreshing, which is the words that Coca-Cola owns. So let me tell you how people perceive reality. We perceive reality through our senses. The first place a sense signal goes is the amygdala, the limbic system in the middle of our brain, where people unconsciously decide what they're hearing, seeing, feeling is relevant to them. We want to light up the emotional brain. Then the sense signal gets to the prefrontal cortex, which is the rational brain, and that's where we want them to see your messages. So when you're doing branding, we need to light up the emotional part of the brain first, and then we need to give them messages so they know they've made a right decision. First, we start with emotions, then we go to the rational. The way we light up the brain is through imagery. We need to pick the right imagery because people are bombarded with all these messages. They tune them out. If you show the right image to people, it'll get the brain to light up emotionally, they'll connect, and then you give them the messages. So then what we do is you got to pick the right images. Image first, then messages. Then you use a brand ladder. A brand ladder is where you pick your features, why people are going to buy your product, then the benefits, why is it good for them, and then you want to ask them, how does it make you feel when you deliver on that feature and those benefits? Then you find imagery that evokes the emotion connected to the top-tier purchase factors. So you show the images that are connected to the top-tier purchase factors, then they can read the features and the benefits. So we did a project with Geldwin, who's the world's largest manufacturer of windows and doors. And the number one purchase factor for windows is reliability. It's true for dealers, distributors, builders, remodelers, consumers. Actually, reliability is the number one purchase factor or feature in the world. Everybody wants reliability. So then we found out, how do we ladder that up? And what is the emotion for reliability when it comes to windows if you're a builder, remodeler? Reliability, and the emotion is peace of mind, because if the window arrives, it has a defect, it's late, it causes all kinds of problems. You want it to arrive on time, and it boils down to peace of mind. So it's all about imagery. Got to pick the right imagery. And you really ought to test imagery. You can test imagery first in your founder group, and then with your friends you can have pizza parties. So this is a major opportunity. If one thing I want you to take out of this, the number one thing is the use of powerful imagery to get your target audience's attention. So here's the Geldwin. Let's go back to the Geldwin if we could. Here's the brand ladder. So here's Geldwin ads. And we did all kinds of research to find out what kind of imagery would evoke peace of mind when it came to windows, because most people just show the frames. What we found out is if we show pictures of windows from the inside of a home to a beautiful pastoral landscape, it like totally did the job. This equaled billions of dollars to Geldwin. It was huge. This stuff really works. So brand is your proprietary, emotional, visual, rational image. It is all about selling. This is not about fluff or hype or anything like that. It's about how do you sell quicker and faster. And a well-crafted value will increase the value of your brand and your company, so you can get better funding, you can get a higher multiplier, you can get a great exit. It's not about a new logo. The big trap you're going to run into if you go to a branding agency is most of these people have no idea of any of the stuff I've just talked about, and to them branding's a new logo. What a waste of time. Forget it. It's all about communicating what you do and communicate it in a way that people get it and they want it. It's about more sales, a quicker close, a better valuation, building trust, and attracting great people to come work for you.
Really interesting there. I know that he does speak really quickly. What I will say is that in the intro to this, when he kicked off in 2018, he did say this is typically could be a full day workshop that he squeezed into an hour for the sake of giving the content to us. So that's where I think this might be really valuable to break down a bit of what he had said. Mainly the key thing is getting to your top tier purchase factors. So figuring out what it is that are the reasons that people are going to buy what it is that you're looking for, using that to create imagery that is going to evoke the emotion that you want your customer to feel. When they then have that emotion evoked, you're then able to give them the rationale that is the explanation for them making that purchase behavior. I saw a column you put in the chat there. Currently designing a website and picking the images is actually tougher than the content. 100%. No, because deciding what it is going to look like is so important, because that's what we're going to react to emotionally first. So what I would suggest for that, if you haven't had a look, Unsplash is a good website. Unsplash. They have really good like free images that you can use for websites or whatever it is. Some have Creative Commons, but most of them don't. So just a good place to have a look if you want. But yeah, that's the key takeaway. And another thing that I love from this is him stating that branding is not design. So it's not redesigning a new logo. Branding is everything but that look. It's the feel of your business. Now I know he's going to go into this a bit more detail. So we'll keep pushing forward. The next part too is remembering your brand. It will take 28 times for customers to remember your brand. This process starts with developing a consistent and repeated message that includes your brand name and top features and benefits, and pairing with imagery that evokes an emotional connection. This video will guide you on choosing the right imagery to connect with your target audience. Cool. So here might help you a bit, Colum, or help us all with selecting the right imagery. We'll dive right in.
Getting your brand remembered. You've heard the word repetition, I think, so far 2 or 3 times this morning. In branding, the goal is you need to repeat your brand name and your top tier features or purchase factors over and over and over and over again. And like you need to memorize them. And it takes 28 times for people to actually remember stuff, so you need to repeat it verbatim. You can't reword it. This is not like writing essays where you do an intro and then set it all up and keep the good stuff for the end. In branding, we do the good stuff up front and we keep repeating it. So we did a big project for REI. This is the before image. So in REI, a lot of these people do mountain climbing and technical climbing. And so this is real cool to them. The problem is the target audience for REI is a regular person just wants to go for a walk, wants to go for a hike. And this totally scares them, makes their palms sweat. They throw away the catalog. We did research and we found out that if we show little people in big, beautiful landscapes, it totally turns on people who want to go in the outdoors. Because that was the goal. They wanted to motivate people to go in the outdoors and get more clothing and gear. They're still using the same kind of imagery in 2017, 2018. If you go to an REI store, you're going to see this kind of imagery.
So that was a bit quicker of one, but it does give you an idea of creating the imagery. I think the key takeaway there is the idea of actually speaking to your customers about the imagery that you're creating. So if you are deciding on images to go on your website, or if you're deciding on images to go anywhere that are going to evoke emotion, one of the most important things you can start to do is get a feedback loop. And so that can be as simple as interviewing, or just asking friends and family, or asking people who don't know anything about your business what they think as soon as they see that picture, what they think of, and then list those off. He'll go into more detail on kind of how to do that later on, but I think the key is kind of creating that initial feedback loop. And also the idea of saying it the same way every time. This is why one of the exercises that I've done with a lot of people is the idea of creating your elevator pitch or your presentation on your idea and present it the exact same way to a number of people. Get back the questions that they might ask, but don't give them the answers, because you're going to give a different answer every time. And the best thing you can do is repeat the same answer that is consistent, clear, and well thought out every single time, because it'll get out a uniform message that evokes exactly what you're looking for. So a bit of a little bit to add there, but we'll go right on to develop your brand. What do you want everyone in your company and your target audience to consistently say about your company or product? This video will introduce you to the brand identity map and help you begin to develop a consistent message to be used throughout all your internal and external communications. Cool. So starting to develop the brand identity map, this is the actual application of it. So.
Now we're going to do a brand identity map. Now I'm compressing a day into like 40 minutes, so fasten your seatbelt. So a brand identity map is a mind map. It's what you want everybody in your organization to say when they talk about your organization. It's going to need to be in all your marketing communications. It's got it all on one page. So this is a full brand identity map. We don't have enough time to do this one, so we're going to do an abbreviated one. And this is to ensure you get consistent, repeated messages and visuals in all your marketing communications, from the website all the way down through your presentations. So here's an example of a brand identity map we did for an organization called the Northwest Entrepreneur Network. Entrepreneurs. Shortest positioning statement we ever did. Positioning statement's your most repeated message. Helping entrepreneurs succeed. You might have heard that message be repeated a little bit here, talking about Blackstone Launchpad powered by Techstars. So, and the number 2 purchase factors or reasons to belong are make connections and access resources. This was done with quantitative research with everybody in this organization, so it's dead on. So, you need to repeat it. So here's the website. Northwest Entrepreneur Network, helping entrepreneurs succeed. Helping entrepreneurs succeed, the Northwest Entrepreneur Network helps entrepreneurs make the connections and access the resources they need to succeed. So when I talk about repeating, like I'm not making it up, helping entrepreneurs succeed repeated 3 times at like 20 some words. So you really need to repeat it. It's really important. And then what happens is, I left the board, they got a new marketing person. They got rid of the positioning statement, they got rid of the imagery, they came up with a slogan. Slogans and taglines are a waste of time. It's just one more thing to remember, and you got to figure out what the heck it means. So they go from start to excess, because internally they thought, oh man, we got something from everybody, from the most beginning entrepreneur to the Bill Gates, which was totally not authentic, didn't work, and everything changed. They went down to 100 members, and they went out of business. This branding stuff puts people out of business. I've worked with big companies, and we have put their competition out of business. I have worked with companies and made many people extremely wealthy. I'd like you all to become incredibly wealthy, and the way to do it is you need to use these techniques. So here's another problem. Only 1% of companies actually know why people buy their products. This is like a marketing branding sin. So you need to find out that when you're selling, what are the top 2 features that are going to get them to buy you instead of someone else? Sounds simple. Hardly anybody does it. You need to do this for your companies, because people out there are saying one thing when the customers want another. Only 8% of Americans trust advertising, because this is what's happening. We need to find out if what you do, which of your customers really connects with what you do. So I had the opportunity to work with my son, Bree Pettis, who founded a company called MakerBot here in Brooklyn. We grew that company to $400 million, exited at $400 million in 6 years, a manufacturing company. My son, Bree Pettis, is now doing whatever he wants, and he started a new company called Bantam Tools with desktop CNC machines. This was desktop 3D printing, and I got to be the VP of marketing for him when we rolled out this product, and it was such a blast. And Bree grew up with me, so he saw me using this stuff. We did brand identity maps, not only for the company, but for every product. And before Bree went on Colbert or any interview, he pulled out the brand identity map and he made sure he got the messages down, so he was always on message. So this stuff really works. It's simple, but it takes a lot of discipline.
Awesome. I always love the applications of it. I love when he walks into the fact that his son actually took on what he was suggesting. I saw in the chat there column, yes, so the brand identity map is part of the exercises that come after that. If you're looking for the link to the Techstars website, the Techstars Toolkit link is in the description of this video, so you can click through to that and then just navigate to the branding one, and you'll be able to find it in the exercises afterwards, or right now if you want to open another tab. But yeah, so all of that is there, and it does do a step-by-step. I'll walk you through it at the end. It does a step-by-step of how to set out the brand identity map, and then also how to apply it. So it is all here. So yeah, good resource. Next step is going to be finding your hook. So every company needs a hook to grab the attention of their target audience. This video will guide you in developing your brand name and category descriptors, how to pair them together to hook your target audience and drive purchase behavior. That's the key thing at the end, is the driving purchase behavior. I think that was key, him saying it off the bat, is the fact that branding is going to drive purchasing. At the end of the day, you're trying to drive purchasing of whatever it is the brand is. So how do we find our hook?
So we're going to cover each part of this brand identity one part at a time. I'm just going to do this like really quickly. This is to give you a quick idea of what it's all about. And it's actually important if you could actually do market research to validate what you come up with. So we're going to cover the brand name, target audience, category descriptor, features, positioning statement. Okay. So here's the map. You all got one of these. First is, who's your target audience? So a target audience, you want to find out demographics, psychographics, who are they, what do they look like? Ideally, we give your target audience a name, so when you're talking about the rest of the parts of this brand identity map, you can say, well, what does Hank or what does Sally want? And it should be distinctive, and it should be actionable for your marketing. So write your target audience in your map. Maybe you have one or two. So at MakerBot, while you're doing that, we started off thinking the target audience was hobbyists and people were going to buy a desktop 3D printer. Then we rapidly found out that hobbyists only buy one 3D printer, but when we sold to companies like GE, they bought lots of desktop 3D printers. So we switched the target audience from hobbyists to companies. Bingo, sales totally took off. Okay, brand name. Okay, so it was really interesting to see you've got a lot of unique brand names, so I congratulate you on that. The problem these days with brand names is finding one that's available for a trademark standpoint and also available for a domain name. Super hard. Memorable, short, and by the way, don't use acronyms. Words are 60% more memorable than acronyms. Using an acronym is a sure way to get people to forget your name and what you're doing. So category descriptor, this is actually really important. Back in the late 90s, all the high-tech companies, I wrote a book called Technobrands, all the high-tech companies thought branding is what it's at, so they started brand naming every product and coming up with tchotchkes and coffee cups and t-shirts, and they thought branding was done. I remember going to Sun where I did branding for the Sun Ultra Enterprise servers. And we'd done a map of all Sun in the middle and all their brand names, and there were like 70 brand names all around Sun. It looked like the asteroid belt. And Scott McNeely was there, and they all realized that they made a major mistake here because nobody knew who all these names were. Plus, it takes a lot of money to manage those trademarks. So people like that, like at Microsoft, unless you're a billion-dollar brand, you don't get a new brand name. You have to use one of the existing Microsoft brands, and you need to use a category descriptor. A category descriptor is 2 to 4 words. It's a generic phrase. It's a hook so people know what you're talking about. And so desktop 3D printer. That was a term we actually made up at MakerBot that hadn't been used before. Now that's the generic accepted term. Tablet, smartphone. So this is not a funny name. This is not a made-up name. This is what hook do you want to fit on in the minds of your customers. And you always want to link your brand name and a category descriptor. So I've done a bunch of work for HP LaserJet printers. And they always do HP LaserJet printers. So you want to put your brand name and your category descriptor right afterwards so people hook your name and can associate your name with the category you're in. This is actually a really important decision for you to make. Category descriptors, you need to have it so people really get it quick. One thing you can do is you come up with a list of category descriptors, you brainstorm. You get your team together. You give them, let's say you got 5 category descriptors, you give everybody 2 votes. You have them vote for the category descriptors that's going to be most simplest and easiest to understand for the target audience. And then you can do that with actually, ideally, your target audience, do some market research with them. SurveyMonkey works great. This is one that's really worth researching.
Yeah, so really important to understand your category descriptor. It's gonna kind of help you describe your business at a glance. It's that one line. So example, Tangent Trinity's Ideas Workspace. So you immediately know we're within Trinity. We are about ideas and we get work done. Then our kind of beyond that, imagination, collaboration, action. That's how we do it. But the initial thing, Trinity's Ideas Workspace, is an example of that. Just having your category descriptor, and also this connects a bit to one of the previous sessions, which was creating a category. If you want to have a look back at that and how you can create your space in a market and finding that space, this might connect a bit to how to have your category descriptor. So all of this does link together, but interesting so far. So we'll dive right in. Leverage your key features. There's a reason why customers are drawn to a product. In this video, you'll learn how to leverage your top purchase features and benefits to motivate your target audience to buy from you instead of the competition. Cool. Yeah, so this is the top features and benefits. Let's dive in.
This is really important. Features and benefits. What is a feature? A feature is a factual statement about your product or your service. Dimensions, specs. What are benefits? They're the end result. What does the target audience get from that feature? So here's an illustration from HP. The features are up to 40% faster, uses up to 53% less energy, up to 40% smaller, and the benefit is all this beautiful illustration. When we work with HP LaserJet printers, who actually got 90% of the market, they started off with just a picture of the product. Then they started showing the product with a person beside the product. Sales popped. Then they started showing the product with a person, showing the output that just came from the HP LaserJet printer with the right emotional expression. 90% market share. So that's what these features are really important. So, and how do you decide about features? You want to find the features that when your target audience has got it down, whether they're going to buy you or someone else, you want to find the features that motivate them and switch them to buy you rather than the competition. Features are really important. It's another area that really ought to be researched. Okay, let's go. So my question is, for you, when you're selling, you all got up, you got your 2 minutes to do your pitch. What are the top features and selling message for your brand, for your product, for your service, for your target audience at the time when they're making the decision maybe to fund you, whether to partner with you, whether to be your customer? Examples of top-ranked purchase factors: reliable, scalable, grow as you grow, responsive, knowledgeable tech support, easy, fast, and affordable. So notice these are not complicated. These are easy to understand. The shorter is better because you're going to have to repeat these over and over again verbatim. Now I want you to do, thinking of your product, your service, what is the number one feature, purchase factor for your product or service in the minds and the hearts of your target audiences? These top three are actually from when I did work for Sun, when they were going from engineering workstations to wanting to get into the server marketplace, and we nailed these. It was done through quantitative research. They pulled all the top customers, 100 customers here in the city, and the analysts, they presented this. They were on message. They repeated these messages. They showed Larry Ellison up there showing scalable. And the analysts go to the top customer, what do you think? The customer goes, it's just what I wanted.
Awesome. So yeah, again, it's features and benefits. As you go through your features and benefits, there is a exercise after this, I will say. So the exercise after this will walk you through how to just define your features and benefits, but then obviously an important thing is testing that with your market. I found it really interesting how he dives into the idea of making it visual. You want to make your features visual, but when you're making any sort of advertisement or showcasing of your product, you're making visual that which is your unique selling point. So that which is going to make the person decide you over the competition is what you want to showcase. Assuming that maybe your advertisement or your brand is going to be shown in a collection of other brands selling the same thing, what you're showing should show why people are going to purchase you over your competition. It's just an interesting way to come about it. Again, you'll walk through it a bit more in the exercises. But yeah, next step is to tap into your customers' emotions. Discovering what your target audience feels when they interact with your product or company is a critical element in branding. This video will guide you in prioritizing your features and tangible benefits and pairing them with imagery that evokes emotions to drive purchase behavior. Cool. So a bit of coming together of what we were looking at so far.
So you've done your feature. Now I want you to think, what are the benefits of that feature to your target audience? And ideally, you want to brainstorm, make a whole list of why is that good for your target audience. And you want to bulletize them. We aren't doing paragraphs here, we're doing bullets. And then you want to think, hey, how does that make your target audience feel? When you deliver on the feature, when you deliver on the benefits, what's the emotion that makes them feel? Does it make them feel smart, confident, in control, safe, strong? You know, they're all these incredible emotions. Then you use the feature and the benefits for your messaging, and then you find imagery that's going to evoke this emotion when your target audiences look at the imagery. Now, this sounds simple. It actually isn't that hard, because if you do this with a group, you can ask them, how does it make you feel if you deliver on this feature and the benefits? Most people have no problem telling you how it made them feel. Then you need to go do research and find out what imagery is going to evoke that emotion. Now let's go to the tangible benefits. And now I want you to do, what's the intangible emotional appeal? So you've made your feature, you've made your benefit. Now think about, how does your target audience going to feel when you deliver on that feature and that benefit? And think of an emotion. And then if you're really cruising, think about what kind of image you could show that would evoke that emotion with your target audience.
Awesome. So that's the exercise. That's an actual exercise that we're going to go into just after. But it's interesting. Yeah, when you deliver on the benefits, how is your customer going to feel? And then you're finding the imagery that's going to essentially give them that taster, that feeling ahead of time, where it's like, I've felt this based on the imagery I'm looking at. I now want more of that, and your product that's now right in front of me is the solution to the problem I didn't know I had until I felt this from the emotional reaction I had to the photo you showed me. It's a lot there, but it's really interesting. Colin put it, this really ties in with the pain point yesterday. If you know their pain, you know their emotion. Absolutely, Colin. So, like, yeah, if you know what the pain is that somebody has, you know the emotion, and then it's create that imagery that's going to remind them of the time that they felt that pain, hopefully not horrible pain, but remind them of when they felt that challenge, and then present them with the solution to the challenge. That's really powerful, and that's what can secure sales, and that's how you build your brand to be the solution to a problem that hopefully many people have. So yeah, the final thing, this is where we bring it all together. We're going to craft your positioning statement. So the positioning statement is a must-do in all communications to build brand awareness. It is your most repeated message that quickly describes what you do and the benefits to your target audience. This video will help you craft a positioning statement that will entice your target audience to learn more about your product. Cool. So it'll all come together here.
So this is actually perhaps the most challenging one. This is called the positioning statement. The positioning statement is your most repeated message. You need to use this when somebody says, "Who are you?" or somebody in your company uses it, and they say, "What do you do?" You want them to use the positioning statement. It needs to be repeated verbatim, not reworded. It needs to quickly describe what your company does and the benefit to your target audiences. It's generic and descriptive. We are not talking taglines or slogans here or funny, cute headlines. We're talking very straightforward, descriptive of what you do and the benefit to your target audience. A couple examples. With the Intel Celeron processor, you can expect an affordable and reliable PC for your home or home office. Idaho Conservation League preserves Idaho's clean water, its wildlife, and quality of life. The Blackstone Launchpad, powered by Techstars Entrepreneurship program, helps students succeed. So the shorter is better because you need to remember it. And you've all got, I think, the fill-in form. This is another one that's really worth testing. You want to get everybody to memorize it. You need to find a positioning statement that you and everyone in your company is comfortable saying over and over and over again, like 1,000 times. And you also need to find a positioning statement. When you say that, your target audience says, "Tell me more." It starts the conversation, because after you do the positioning statement, you give them your top 2 features and purchase factors, and now you got them. You're reeling them in. And you need to keep the number of purchase factors as short and sweet as possible because people just can't handle a lot of purchase factors and features. You need to keep it really straightforward. You want to repeat your name many times because in branding, it's all about brand awareness and familiarity. You need to repeat your name so many times so people actually remember it, and then you connect that. It's called brand association with what you do. So use the message in your brand identity map repetitively. Avoid rewording. Link your brand map to your operations. You need to link the brand to operations to make sure you can actually deliver on what you're promising in the features. Give it to everyone in your organization. You want everybody to use this. If they won't use the brand, if they won't give it the program, fire them. You want the right people on the bus. Read the book, Good to Great, and get these people who aren't going to participate, who are going to rein on the right messaging, get them out of the organization before they screw you up. And thank you.
Right. So that was how it wrapped up. And it's really interesting. He actually used the example there that he had kind of subtly been using the entire time, which is Blackstone Launchpad powered by Techstars. It was at this session that day where there was the Blackstone Launchpad meetup. Tangent has a subset that I manage, which is the Blackstone Launchpad, now powered by Techstars program. Previous to this, it was Blackstone Launchpad. It became powered by Techstars that day, and everybody went out and said, because it was merging Blackstone Launchpad and Techstars, but he said over and over and over again, the Blackstone Launchpad powered by Techstars. And by the end of it, we all understood what the message was, and he then has, obviously, Blackstone Launchpad powered by Techstars helps students succeed. And then that is what's going to drive the ask afterward, or the tell me more. I see, Joseph, you put in the chat there, okay, it's the tell me more that you're looking for. Yes, exactly. Like, you look at this as kind of your elevator pitch in a way. You're always looking for people to want more from you, to ask for more. And then the thing that comes next after they ask you for more is your top 2 purchase factors and features. And you keep that streamlined, you're able to give them a bit more that then might result in a purchase or whatever the next step of your conversation is. But that conversation can happen person to person, and there's actually another exercise that's on your elevator pitch, but that conversation can happen virtually just based on how people will navigate through your website or whatever it is that you're showing them. So that's kind of that's the talk, but I think the most important part of this is actually applying it in the exercises. So I'm going to click through to the worksheet here. As I said before, guys, the link to the Techstars toolkit is in the description of this, so you can go to the Brand Your Business section and then just click on the exercises. But we'll just go through it really quickly. I'll show you guys what it is, and then you can kind of take it away. If you guys do have questions and want to come back at some point or book a one-to-one with myself, you're able to do that as well. But just to discuss if you'd like. So the power of branding, just going to read the bold there. So your objectives are to learn how to use strategic imagery to connect with your customer, build out your brand using a brand identity map, and implement your messaging throughout your marketing communications, right? So what is the problem that you're solving for somebody? How does your brand solve that? And then how do you put that out there for people? What's in a brand? Your brand. So the first step is write down why your product is different from the competition and why customers will trust your brand. The brand is always going to be about trust. So do people trust your brand to fulfill the promise that it's making on the site? As you then go down, what do you feel when you purchase products or services? Before you dive into trying to apply it and actually apply it to your brand personally, what you want to do is look at other brands and get a sense of what other products give you an emotional reaction, and then what are the features and benefits. When you go through the exercise of a number of those examples and see how you process it, it's a lot easier to apply that to your brand, which is the next step. So the next step is then, what do you want your customers to feel? What's the product? What are the emotions that they would get out of that? And then what are the features and benefits that are going to evoke those emotions in those customers? The additional branding exercise: visit a royalty-free photo website, Pixpay or Unsplash. Unsplash was the one I had mentioned before. Or purchase stock photos, Shutterstock, iPhone, and choose some images that you think would create an emotional connection with your target market. Create a gallery of these photos. So creating this gallery of those photos that can create that emotional connection gives you a bank of content that you always know you can pull from for any sort of social media posts or anything that's going to go forward. Brand identity map. So this is the map. It's here. You're able to go through it. There is a step-by-step process to going through it, and an example of, and you kind of can go through from top to bottom. That's the process. But then just below it, there's an example of what a brand identity map looks like. So the brand archetype, the brand personality, the audience, the positioning statement, category descriptor over on the right, which he talked about, the primary feature or purchase factor, the emotional appeal, the reptilian hot button, which is essentially what is that thing that's going to click for people right away and excite them. And then the limbic hot button, jet set, fashionable, smart, put together. So something more reptilian is the quick, limbic is slower. Tangible benefits, what are the tangible benefits that somebody's going to get from your product? And then the components of the brand identity map, here are the questions that you have to answer. As you answer them, you're filling in the brand identity map. So how might your brand name alter a customer's perception of reality? Does your brand name have any negative connotations? Is your brand name available and trademarked? That is a key one. Is your brand name available and trademarked? There are a number of brands that might be out there that are the perfect brand name in your head, but if it is already trademarked or somebody's already using it, you need to think about that before you go down the road. Has your brand been tested on customers? Write your brand name here. So then from that, target audience, describe your target audiences, go through the category descriptors, so write down a description phase in 2 to 4 words. As I said before, the example, tangent, Trinity's Ideas Workspace. Blackstone Launchpad powered by Techstars, helps students succeed. So features, write down all the features you provide, and then you narrow it down to a top 2. The benefits, write down the emotional benefits of your product or service to your target audience, and then write down the tangible benefits of your product and service to your audience. So the emotional benefits, how it makes them feel. I feel more secure and confident because you have sold me a seatbelt for my car. The tangible benefits is I physically will not actually fly out of the car. So just a quick example. Positioning statement, then that is the coming together of all of it. Your brand name provides what? What is that in a few words that you do for your customers? Reptilian hot buttons, explaining them. So these are unconscious needs and impulses that evoke primal and instinctual fears and desires. These hot buttons are used to get the attention of the target audience to prompt action. So it's very quick. It's what is that fight or flight thing that you're going to be able to say that will get people to be interested in your product and run down that road. You write down some of the reptilian hot buttons, and then the limbic. These are unconscious needs centering on higher level emotions. So as I said before, there's one that's faster, one that's slower. This is the slower one, the unconscious needs that center on your higher level emotions. These buttons are used to evoke an emotional response and increase the desire for your product or service. It's important to carefully and strategically select imagery and photography that evoke emotional connections to your product or service. Examples are love, happiness, comfort, trust, family, relationship. So those positive emotions tends to be the, if you've done a value proposition canvas before, the pains are typically the reptilian hot buttons, and then the gains are the limbic hot buttons. That's just a kind of rule of thumb, but I'll let you guys go through on your own. And then you can answer the following questions at the end. So is your brand identity unique to the market? Are you focused on the core customer? Does it share the value you bring to customers? Is it easy to remember? Is it easy to say? Those are key. If it's not easy to remember or to say, you're not going to say it as often as you need to. That was one challenge with the Blackstone Launchpad powered by Techstars. The fact that it's so long and not as easy to say is difficult, but when you're merging 2 big brands, sometimes you have to do the best you possibly can in the circumstances. Can your customer get a clear picture of what you're offering from that initial thing? Do they understand what your offer is to them? And then is it consistent in all areas of communication, internal/external? And can the strength of the brand withstand attacks from competitors? That's another thing, thinking about your brand, and is there, you might even set up a friend or set up somebody who tries to attack your brand in some way. So trying to find inconsistencies in your brand, let them try to attack in the friendliest way possible and see if you're able to find messaging that will find your way around at. So from that, get out of the building, this is where you go and essentially ask people for feedback. So start practicing. Once you've done the full brand identity map, go out and start talking to people about your ideas. It's like the elevator pitching. It's like anything you're doing, the empathy interviews with your customers to understand their pains. That's the upfront one. Then you can try and fill this in to see how you're solving those pains and what the key features and key benefits are to those customers. And then ultimately, you'll have a pretty powerful brand to hopefully walk forward with.